Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Who would protect us better, Trump or Clinton? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. While the left-wing media wants to put a stake through the Trump campaign's heart, the truth is he does have a chance to win the presidency, and that chance hangs on two issues: the economy and combating Islamic terrorism. If there is another terror attack on U.S. soil, Americans will, of course, react, and that could change voting patterns. Almost 2 years ago, after the Paris attack, I put forth a plan to defeat the ISIS savages. Here's the strategy you should employ immediately. The president of France clearly stated the ISIS attack was an act of war. France is a member of the 28-nation NATO alliance. Article 5 of that alliance says that an attack on one country is an attack on all. So, all 28 nations should now begin to organize a campaign to crush the ISIS killers. That should include ground troops, bombings, no-fly zones, border security for Turkey, Jordan, Iraq, and a central command and control center based in Europe. Once NATO declares war on ISIS, things will radically change. Obviously, the Obama administration ignored that advice and continued a far less aggressive action against ISIS. Now, here's a stunning fact. There are 28 nations in the NATO alliance. Only eight are actively fighting against ISIS. The USA, Britain, France, Canada, Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Turkey. Australia not part of NATO, but does contribute. So where are the other 20 NATO countries? Why are they not fighting the killers? President Obama is silent on that question. And it is appalling that NATO has not been organized to defeat the ISIS threat. Writing in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein agrees, quote, "It is now time to recognize that an increased U.S. presence acting with NATO countries and other partners could enhance the effort to eliminate Islamic State. Creating a NATO rapid reaction force to serve as an attack force against Islamic State would make a major impact and would help to eliminate ISIS safe havens and to staunch the flow of refugees into Turkey and Europe," unquote. Senator Feinstein is correct, and we were hoping she would come on the factor to talk about it, but she has declined. You may have noticed it is a pattern among Democratic senators. I'm not paranoid, but there seems to be an organized effort to keep Democratic politicians off this network. Anyway, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have also put forth strategies.
My administration will aggressively pursue joint and coalition military operations to crush and destroy ISIS, international cooperation to cut off their funding, expanded intelligence sharing, and cyber warfare to disrupt and disable their propaganda and recruiting.
We cannot contain ISIS. We must defeat ISIS. We need to rely on what actually works, not bluster that alienates our partners and doesn't make us any safer.
Talking Points believes Mrs. Clinton would most likely take a more aggressive stance against ISIS than President Obama has, but she's really not spelled that out yet. What this all comes down to is will. Barack Obama simply does not have the motivation to quickly destroy the ISIS savages, thereby sending a message to the world. That's clear. But the present danger is also clear. The next terror attack is coming at any time. There will be more innocent people slaughtered, while NATO does little to stop the carnage. And what about those poor refugees Senator Feinstein mentioned? Who's helping them? Who's providing safe zones near where they live? Nobody. Summing up, Americans are engaged emotionally with the terror fight, and that will affect the upcoming vote. Both candidates should make ISIS a top priority. And that's a memo now for the top story. Reaction. Joining us from Washington, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer from the London Center for Policy Research, John Hanna from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Who is stronger on ISIS, Mr. Hanna, Trump or Clinton?
I just don't see enough difference between Clinton's strategy and the president's strategy, Bill, to make me believe that she would be aggressive enough. Listen, I've had a lot of disagreements with Trump in terms of his temperament, but there was real progress in the national security speech he gave this week. First, the sense of priority and urgency he attached to fighting Islamic radicalism, not just ISIS, but al-Qaeda, as well as the Shiite jihadists in Iran and Hezbollah. So he's going to apply a lot more resources to this, it sounds like. He stopped the trash talking of our NATO and Arab allies. He now wants to work with them rather than against them. And he also had a very important focus on the need to fight the ideology of ISIS. We've got to crush that ideology just like we crushed Soviet communism. Simply defeating them on the battlefield isn't going to be enough, or else we're going to be back at this problem
so you say
again
Trump,
and again.
at this point, has a stronger point of view, anti-ISIS point of view. What about you, Colonel?
Oh, I agree. I think we have to look at the reality of what will come out of this and look who's advising the candidates. Mike Flynn has made very clear what his intentions are. General Flynn, former director of DI, wrote a book about the basic way to defeat ISIS. And Bill, right here on your show, by the way, Mike's one of our senior fellows at the London Center. Right here on your show 2 years ago, we put forth the idea of an Arab NATO. And not to dispute what you and Senator Feinstein have said, you have the right concept, but not the right technique. We need to look at an Arab NATO for a long-term solution to resolve the very issues we've all just talked about. Combat forces, which are Arab, and basically empowered to do their own defense, and then have the Arabs, like President al-Sisi of Egypt, who has said you must eradicate violence from the religion, have them take up the work with us to go after the message. So we've got to look for not only the short term, let's go in there and kick their butts and win, but how do we win the peace?
All right.
So I think Trump's better on that case.
I'm not opposed to an Arab alliance that would be against terrorism, but I think it would take many, many years to organize that. Whereas NATO's already in place. Is there any reason on earth, Mr. Hanna, that 20 NATO countries are still sitting it out? I mean, Obama could make them in one day say yes or no, and if they say no, then we could take them out of NATO. Why should we protect these countries? Why should we spend money in these countries if they're not going to sign on against ISIS?
No, I agree with you, Bill. I think the problem here, a lot of it is just U.S. will. I don't think the president wants.
He hasn't let it all
to get
again.
NATO.
He hasn't said anything. He hasn't encouraged them. They can sit it out with no consequence. I mean, it is just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous situation. And, Colonel, right now in Aleppo, Syria, people are starving to death.
Right.
Refugees, innocent people. I mean, NATO providing safe zones inside Syria and Iraq is absolutely doable. It's not an offensive ground thing. It's just protecting innocent people. And yet President Obama, putting himself up as this great humanitarian, has not lifted one finger to make this happen.
We proposed this 2 years ago to members of Congress of both parties and both defense and intelligence and foreign affairs to create a safe zone bill. You can invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter and do it immediately.
Put NATO troops on the ground there and bring in resources to feed and clothe and shelter these people. And then if anybody comes close to them, then you kill them.
And you use that as a base of operations to go attack them. Absolutely.
That's right.
Create a space to go do it.
You set it up. Look,
absolutely.
Look, Raqqa, Mr. Hanna, is only 30 miles away from Turkey. All right? And Turkey's a NATO nation, so you can do the math. You can knock out Raqqa in a week. But they don't have the will. They don't have the will. Now, Hillary Clinton has said that she will not put ground troops, either American or NATO, at this point. I believe Mrs. Clinton's going to change her tune. I do. I could be wrong on that, but I think that she's still with the far left, still kind of negotiating that. What do you say about that, Mr. Hanna?
Listen, I think, Bill, I think ground troops will absolutely be needed, both American as well as NATO and Arab partners. And actually, the Arabs have actually publicly offered up ground forces to fight ISIS in eastern Syria. But I don't think either one of the candidates at this point are being honest enough with the American people about that. We're going to have to go in there probably in a bigger way with a larger American component to destroy these guys as fast and as quickly as Mr. Trump says we need to.
All right. And last word, do you believe that as well, Colonel?
I believe we're going to have to enhance our shaping operations. There's going to be a great reluctance to get in a ground conventional army in there. I'm one of those who believes we can do a lot more. I know we can do a lot more with special operations forces. But, Bill, not only must we win the tactical fight, I spoke to senior members of the Pentagon, and they cannot get the authority to go after ISIS globally. As Senator Feinstein said, they're expanding. We got to get ahead of them. So until we do that, it's all moot.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Next on the rundown, a brutally unfair attack on Ellen DeGeneres over a joke she made. Yes, alleged racism once again involved. Then later, Waters with a stunning display at the site of 9/11.
15 years and $6 billion later, we have this. How do you feel about a symbol of capitalism on ground zero?
That report ahead. Personal story segment tonight. Everybody's a racist. As you may know, Jamaican track star Usain Bolt won his third gold medal in the 100-meter dash at the Rio Olympics. Trying to compliment Mr. Bolton, Ellen DeGeneres tweeted out a picture of herself, which said, "This is how I'm running errands from now on." Obviously, a cute jest. Well, Ms. DeGeneres now being accused by some loons as being racist. Of course, she's not, and the accusations against her are despicable. But this is a trend in America, and a New York Post editorial today nails it, quote, "When it comes to targets for congenitally offended social justice warriors, no one is safe. This nonsense needs to end." Joining us now from Washington, Jamila Bey, radio talk show host. And you say?
I say, Ellen, is she a racist? I'm sure she is not. I love Ellen. She's sweet, she's smart, she's funny. This was beyond the pale, though. It's not just loons who find this picture offensive. The truth of the matter is, this wasn't Ellen tweeting out a picture of herself. This was Ellen tweeting a picture that was photoshopped of her riding the back of Usain Bolt as though he was a beast of burden.
Okay, well, let me stop you there.
Okay.
What if it were a white track star?
Well, it wasn't.
Well, no.
And that matters.
No,
It
it
does
doesn't.
matter. Sir, you're wrong.
She, I believe, and I know her a little bit, is colored blind. She's color blind. So if there was a white track star carrying Ellen DeGeneres to 7-Eleven, you wouldn't have any problem with that, would you?
I honestly
would you
still,
have a trouble
would I have
if it
trouble
were
with
a
it?
white track star?
I think that's a very good question.
Thank you.
I would still have trouble with
Why?
it. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
If I go to a concert and some teeny bopper singer throws up a straight-armed, flat-palmed salute to the crowd, a wavy, high-fivey sort of thing, and people in that crowd go, "Whoa, when he did that, you know what it looked just like to me?" I had this reaction. It was a gut instinct thing. I've seen that same signal before, and it frightens me. There's meaning behind that signl.
And you're talking about a Hitler salute?
Or whatever you want to call it.
So if somebody goes like this, it's Heil Hitler, and they can't do that?
Well, if somebody does that in front of a huge crowd and people in
even
that
if they're
crowd
just
go,
waving and it's no context and nothing has been discussed, you're going to read that into it.
I'm going to say that if people in that crowd say, "You know what that looks like, let's talk about the historical significance of that particular sign and that particular signal," take a message from it.
Ms. Begg.
I'm saying here, Ellen, who's a wonderful person. I've actually bought tickets to see her before. When she put that picture up, she used a sign and a symbol that looks to me, as someone who has the legacy of enslavement in my own family, it looks to me as a white person using a black person as a beast of burden.
Now, it would be insulting for me to denigrate your opinion, and we wanted you on the program so you could give it, and you have.
Yes.
Let me just tell you this.
Okay.
You must, and others who think like you must begin to stop this stuff, because it is now driving people away from fairness in racial matters. Ellen DeGeneres had no racial intent. You know it, and I know it. All right? It was a cute tweet. That's all it was. And for people to attack this woman for doing something like that is unfair, it's un-American, and it abridges freedom of speech. I will give you the last word.
That's a reasonable statement when you completely divorce all history and all context from it. What people are saying is this looks a lot like the photographs we have where black bodies were used as labor, where black bodies were used to carry around pretty, smiling white people to do their errands.
It's all about intent, and I'm sure
her intent was not to offend. I agree with you.
Therefore, any personal attacks on her are grossly unfair. Hey, Ms. Bay, look, we're going to have you back because I think you're a very smart woman, and we appreciate you standing up and saying what's on your mind.
Thank you for having me.
Directly ahead, Bernie Goldberg on charges. An Olympic star may have fabricated a violent crime. Also, an update on our George Soros investigation. And later, Water's World on an amazing occurrence at the site of the 9/11 attack. Those reports after these messages. Weekdays with Bernie segment tonight, two very hot topics. Follow up on our investigation of George Soros, who has pumped $13 million into the Democratic machine this election cycle. And did gold medal swimmer Ryan Lochte lie about being held up in Rio? Joining us now from North Carolina is Bernie Goldberg. So before that, you want to comment on the Ellen DeGeneres debate we just had?
5 seconds. Liberals, like your previous guest, see Usain Bolt and they see a black man. That's all they see. The rest of us see a great track star. That's what it comes down to. Liberals, like her, see everything through a racial prism. Everything.
All right. Now, there is trouble for Ryan Lochte and some of his other compatriots in Brazil. You've been following the story. How do you see it at this point?
I'll tell you, I see this as the most interesting story to come out of the Olympics. The rest of it, for me, is boring. I know you personally, Bill, are a big fan of synchronized swimming.
I am.
So, I mean, no disrespect, but this is the only thing I find interesting about the Olympics.
So the athletes, including Mr. Lochte, said that they were assaulted in a cab, had to get out of the cab. Lochte said a gun was pointed at his forehead in a robbery. And now, I guess video says that never happened. Is that where we are on it?
Yes. It's starting to look like it. At least it didn't happen the way they initially said it did. And it may be that they were covering up for something they shouldn't have been doing, like drinking late at night. But this story is not what it was purported to be. And Brazil has enough bad PR about crime to begin with. They didn't need this story. And if those guys are lying, I'm glad the Brazilians found out about it.
Okay. So we'll let the story play out. But it's a shame because Lochte's a good athlete. But if he did lie about it, it's not his career, is going to be tainted, no question. All right. Now, George Soros, you saw our initial report that he had given an enormous amount of money to people who were trying to damage Israel and trying to damage individual Americans like Cliff May and Liz Cheney, who were very upfront about condemning the Islamic Jihad. And the Democratic Party has taken $13 million. Hillary Clinton's packed $7 million from Soros. Now, got very little coverage. I mean, Bloomberg covered it a little bit. New York Post covered it a little bit. But nobody else covered it at all. Is there a reason for that?
Even Fox covered it only a very, very little bit. So here's how I see this story. Let's say a major financial conservative backer of Donald Trump, somebody who gave him millions and millions of dollars, also supported groups that tried to delegitimize Israel, that thought Israel was not only oppressive but also a racist country. That would be page one story in the New York Times.
All right, now let me stop you there. So I agree with you 100%. So I believe this is the best example, outside of your book, Biased, that proves the American media is A, dishonest, and B, deeply in the tank for liberal causes. When even a villain like George Soros, who is a villain, he's trying to smear and tear down and destroy individual Americans who have a differing opinion about the jihad than he does. All right? The media chooses to ignore the story when Russian hackers get in and get all the material, present it. All right? It's there, no two sides of it, and they say, we're not going to cover it. That proves the media is dishonest and biased left, does it not?
Okay, yeah, well, we know that they're biased to the left, and I've agreed with you in the past when you say it's gone beyond bias to corruption.
Right.
But this is how I think they would see it. They would say this is a dog bites man story, which we have no interest in, because a lot of liberal elites in the media, in politics, certainly in academia, they agree with George Soros when it comes to Israel.
Yeah, but that's not the press's duty. Press's duty is to report information. And now we have and like in Cuba, And like in Russia, we have an information blackout in America. And if this program ever goes off the air, you never hear a word about it. I got to go. And we always appreciate it, Bernie. Plenty more as the Factor moves along this evening. Many media outlets, including The Factor, use polls in reporting on the presidential campaign, but which polls are reliable and which are not? Truth Serum has some answers. The Dana Perino under fire by some for being too hard on Trump. Dana will be here, and we hope you stay tuned for those reports. Truth Serum segment tonight, Obamacare may be falling apart, and is presidential polling accurate? With us now here in New York City, Eric Shawn, from Washington, Shannon Bream. So Fordham University has analyzed the polling from the Obama-Romney election. What did they find out, Shannon?
Well, they said, listen, they looked at all the final polls for 28 different polls leading into the 2012 presidential election, and they said that all of them were off by some extent, as you would expect. It's not an exact science, but overall they were off by about 3 percentage points in favor of President Obama, because going into the election, the polls were showing that President Obama had about a 1 percentage point advantage. It turned out that he won by more than 3%. So there was a break there. They found in 28 polls, 26 of them were overly favorable to Mitt Romney and had him doing better than obviously he wound up doing.
Which polls were most accurate?
The most accurate were Democracy Corps, Pew Research, and the Hartford Courant. Those are the ones that got it closest to exactly how it turned out. The worst, though, Rasmussen, Gallup, NPR, and AP, all of them had Romney pulling off a win. Okay, now Gallup got out of the presidential polling business because their performance was so abysmal. Rasmussen, I think, turned over management. AP, that's a big, interesting one. Because polling not only is an indicator of who might be winning, but also is a psychological factor, because if voters think their candidate is going to lose, they stay home or whatever. Final question. In some of the analysis of the polling, there's a bias indicator that has been studied. What is that? Well, essentially, they look at where the bias fans out. When you ask these polling questions, who tends to be favored? And the last time there was a bias in favor of Republicans by an assessment of looking at all the polls, and that is exactly what turned out to be the case. People were overly optimistic about Romney, about Republicans doing well. In the end, it turned out that just was not factual. Okay. That's interesting, because most people think it's biased left, but this one was biased in favor of Republicans. All right, let's get to Obamacare. Aetna, huge insurance, now says we don't want any more to do with it. Why is Aetna dropping out?
Well, they're losing money. They say they lost $200 million in the second quarter of this year. Bill, that's $1 billion, on track for $1 billion loss this year.
How did they lose it?
Well, they say too many sick people have been signing up, high-risk people, and not enough young, healthy people have signed up to
So in Obamacare, in preconditioned conditions, you can sign up. Anybody can sign up. Insurance agencies have to take you. The way they do that is if healthy people like me and Sean, we sign up, then we're not putting in claims. But the healthy people aren't signing up, so they have to pay too many claims.
Yeah.
Now, when a huge insurance company like Aetna, and there will be others, I understand, that are going to drop out as well, what happens then?
Well, 40 already have dropped out. Humana is a big one.
Right. Kaiser.
Healthcare. So what happens is the people then don't have that choice. They have to be forced into another government program or another Obamacare. But apparently about a quarter of the counties in this country only have one or two choices.
Okay, so with the fewer insurance companies available for people to buy into, then the pie shrinks, and then whatever the insurance company tells you have to do, you have to do. So if you can't see your doctor, and the insurance company says, no, you got to see Harvey 3 towns over, you got to see Harvey 3 towns over.
And you're going to pay more for it because the prices are going up from 9 to 25%.
These are the deductibles,
No,
right?
this is the cost of Obamacare, of an
the
Obamacare
basic
policy.
cost of the policies going up for most working Americans.
Up to 25% for many people.
So Dr. Welby, you may not be able to see him anymore.
Yeah, can't afford him.
And if you can't see Dr. Kildare, I'm moving to Finland. All right? All right, Eric Shawn, everybody. My prediction, Obamacare will be history within 3 years. We come right back. Ms. Dana Perino getting some heat for her analysis of Donald Trump. And Waters with a stunning new exposition at the site of the 9/11 attack.
What do you think about having a symbol of capitalism here on sacred ground?
Capitalism is amazing. I think it's another foundation of, the American dream, and I think it's fantastic.
Moments away. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Impact segment tonight. As you may know, Ms. Dana Perino is a very successful analyst here at Fox News. And last night she tweeted out this quote. Some of you call me Debbie Downer. Negative Nancy. or even Pollyanna. I've been called a pragmatic snob. Is there such a thing? But I will not lie to you about the state of this race. I won't do it. No amount of peer pressure, digital or otherwise, can move me. Here is Dana.
I'm so glad you follow me on Twitter.
If I knew what that was, I would. I actually am tweeting. Okay.
I follow you.
But I don't even know. I say it and then somebody tweets it because I'm afraid of the machine. So what's the primary beef against you?
Well, I think a lot of Republicans just expect me to be a cheerleader for the candidate. And it's not my job to do that. And also, I saw what happened in 2012 when Republicans were sold a bill of goods that Romney was going to win.
Yeah, we just heard
and
the polling thing. Right.
Yeah, and Shannon Bream did that very well. And I remember Bob Beckel actually saying to me the Friday night before the election, he's like, Dana, these numbers, Romney is not going to win. And I went home thinking, Bob's wrong. And that night, on election night, I sat next to him and I was like, Bob was right. And I vowed just to never do that again. It's a disservice to the viewers and the voters and to the candidate.
But you don't badmouth Trump.
No, I don't. No, they want me to say something positive all the time. They want me to say that things are looking up, that things are going to be great. The state of the GOP race right now is really bad. No candidate that has been this far behind in August has ever gone on to win. Now, that could change. There's 11 weeks to go. The debates will be
it's a different time. The debates.
But you have even the candidate and his supporters starting to tell their voters that the polls are rigged. That's not true. That the crowd size matters more than the polls. That's not true. That his social media presence is so big and robust that it's going to blow away Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's the hope. The hope is that the Trump campaign will mobilize people who haven't voted before. But how about your association with Bush? I mean, there's bad blood between the Bush family and the Trump campaign, and rightly so. I mean, Donald Trump worked over Jeb Bush.
Him.
Yeah, and then he said that he lied, that the President Bush the younger lied about Iraq.
And then he knew about 9/11.
Yeah, so there's bad blood there. And then you are a former employee of the Bush presidency, and you like and respect the Bush family. Does that have anything to do with how you analyze Trump?
I have thought from the beginning that Trump would very much be able to get 35 to 40% of the vote and not win the general election. I said that on June 16th, 2015, on the day that he announced his election. I don't want the Republicans to lose. I believe that conservative values and principles and our policies are much better than liberal ones. But I also don't think that it is right to tell people that we are going to win this. Hillary Clinton starts with 242 electoral votes. She needs 270 to win. He's down in every battleground state. He's down with most demographic groups. This is not a general election strategy that can win.
So are you today calling for a landslide, 60-40 in favor of Clinton?
I am not. I absolutely believe that these polls will tighten between now and Election Day. But I do not think that by any stretch of the imagination that it is right to tell people that just because he has very enthusiastic rallies, that means that there's going to be a surprise and the polls are wrong. Polls in America, the presidential polls, have been correct since 1952. And we should believe them. And I didn't do that in 2012, and I learned a lesson from it.
Okay. Now, the criticism directed to you, all right, is it vicious? Would you say it was vicious criticism?
Some of it, but I have a thicker skin.
I know, but I'm trying to,
Some of it is. I mean, you would be shocked.
I get thousands and thousands of letters. The ones that are obscene get thrown away right away. Some of them are vicious, but most of them are not. I would say 90% of our mail, they get angry, but they're not vicious angry.
Some of them are, but I can dismiss those. You know what I found last night when I said, I am not going to lie to you? I found people saying, thank you, but what should we do? What should the candidate do? What should the campaign do? I'd rather have that any day in terms of a dialogue than to tell people, yes, everything's coming up roses, and then November 9th have everyone so severely disappointed.
Yeah. Now, are you going to, this is a question, are you going to change your name to Debbie Downer or Negative Nancy? Are you going to do that?
Well, Pollyanna kind of has a nice ring to it.
You look a little, I don't remember that movie that well. I think I saw Godzilla instead. I had the option. I went with the monster. Do you look? The
insult that I'm questioning is the pragmatic snob. I didn't even know that such a thing could exist.
You're not a snob. I mean...
I am pragmatic.
Yes, but you're not a snob. Now, I want to tell everybody on the No Spin News for BillO'Reilly.com premium members, I get into what Donald Trump has done wrong and what he needs to correct. So you might want to check that out. And we appreciate you being straight up, Dana Perino.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Water's
Thanks for following me.
On Twitter, not literally. Water's on deck. Took 15 years, but a stunning new display up and running at Ground Zero. And we will examine it in Waters World next. Back in the book segment tonight, Waters World. On September 11th, the nation will recognize 15 years after al-Qaeda savages killed about 3,000 people at the World Trade Center here in New York City. This week, a major shopping center opened on the site of the carnage. And that is the subject of tonight's Waters World.
15 years and $6 billion later, we have this.
The design is beyond belief.
When I walked in, it just really overtakes you. The design, the beauty, the white space.
The Oculus, it's awesome. It's wonderful. I'm a big fan.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous like you.
Oh, thank you so very much.
He likes you.
Places like this give people a sense of peace, and that's priceless.
Do you think it was worth $6 billion?
It was definitely worth $6 billion. I already feel like I'm in the future.
It's bright. It's like...
Bright like me.
You bright?
The brightest.
Okay, that's cool.
We do not say cool or awesome.
So the Muslims wanted to build a mosque at Ground Zero, but we built a mall instead.
It's a tragedy that happened, but this is a fantastic mall, and it's great that we rose from something that was terrible.
So having a symbol of capitalism on Ground Zero, how do you feel about that?
I'm just here to shop.
We're going to be spending an obscene amount of money in here.
I think it's a good symbol because it shows how New York City can rebound from such a tragedy and reflect on the past with this beautiful architecture, but also recognize that we could keep on going.
It's better to just have something that's more fun and kind of casual and laid back as opposed to something that just reminds us of their death.
Do you think it's offensive to open up a big mall like this on Ground Zero?
No, because we have to go on.
We have to go on shopping?
We have to go on living.
Have you done any shopping yet?
No, I'm about to go to the Apple Store right now, actually.
What are you shopping here for?
I'm here to go to Fossil. I need a new watch.
Do you have your eye on something? Besides me?
You're pretty sure of yourself, aren't you?
What are you going to shop for here today?
I'm going to buy a ton of clothes. A ton. Kate Spade.
Comfortable clothes.
Comfortable clothes?
Yeah.
Nothing sticks it to the terrorists like buying clothes on Ground Zero, right? Who do you think will keep America safer from terrorism? Hillary or Trump?
Hillary.
I'm more for Hillary.
Hillary, between the two.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
If I say Trump, I'll have no friends left.
Hillary would push America forward and not backward.
She's had a longer experience than him, and she has other good contacts, so I believe in her.
If she can't name the enemy, how's she going to defeat the enemy?
Trump gonna make more enemies than Hillary, so less people will come after us if we got Hillary.
I don't think Hillary's tough enough, honestly. He's one that wants to fight for the U.S. He's not going to back down and make deals with all these people in the Middle East like Hillary.
Do you have any idea who I am?
No.
Waters.
Jesse Waters, Waters World, baby.
And this is my world.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, great. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you, man.
The last guy really liked you, Waters.
Yeah, that's cool.
Who paid for this? Is $6 billion?
$6 billion. 3.9 was taxpayer money.
Wow.
And it looks like it's worth $6 billion.
Is that a
Never
federal, state, and city combo?
Yeah, it's mostly state and city.
State and city of New York.
Under the Port Authority, right.
And when they do these things, obviously it employs a lot of people, and the whole area around that benefits. You think it's worth $6 billion yourself?
I think visually it's worth $6 billion. Some of the stores only you could afford to shop in.
Thank you.
I think most people can't. It's very high end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's so gleamingly white. People were eating off of the floor. It's spectacular.
No, they weren't.
I saw one person.
I like the vibe. How about that? That's cool. I like the vibe.
And word.
That we're attacked and our way of life is assaulted, and then we come back. Yes, it is a symbol of capitalism, but it is also a symbol of prosperity.
Right.
All right, that we are still a very prosperous place. So I've been down there. I'm going to go down there, and we appreciate the report, Waters.
Thank you very much. And this weekend, Waters World, the show.
Waters World, Saturday.
Yes.
8, 11, 2 in the morning.
You got it.
And you'll come to their house as well. Just email us, and he'll show up. Fact of the tip of the day, the French telling Muslim women, you can't wear a burqa in the water. The tip, moments away. Fact of the tip of the day, Muslim women under fire in France in a moment. But first, some very positive buzz surrounding my book. Killing the Rising Sun. As we told you yesterday, Cindy Adams in the New York Post gave it a rave review. So did General David Petraeus, and his comments are on the back of the book. Rising Sun will come out on September 13th. On Amazon right now, it's in the top 200 as people pre-order. And if you pre-order Killing the Rising Sun on BillO'Reilly.com, you'll get the book first. If you become a premium member, you'll get the book free. We hope you check it out. Now the mail. Steve Talent, Atlanta. The top reason I hear from my black friends who don't like Trump is that he bought into the birther movement. Joe Clenard, New York City. Perhaps blacks should consider the old adage, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Barbara Smith, Sumter, South Carolina. These stupid attitudes from people like Beck and Bill Kristol are crazy. We have no other choice but Trump because Democrats are destroying the country. Steve Ehrlich, Delray Beach, Florida. Geraldo is a Hillary operative. He never says anything good about Trump. Last night, Geraldo praised Trump's speech in Milwaukee, Steve. And if he is a Hillary operative, she's in big trouble. I can tell you. Jack Hatsey, Melbourne, Australia. The respected magazine The Economist has selected my city as the most livable place in healthcare and education. The best places were all in democratic socialist countries. Doesn't that indicate a better system than capitalism? Depends on how you want to live, Jack. Australia, basically a capitalistic country with a big entitlement net. But you guys have only 20 million folks. Come on. Here in the USA, we have 320 million. And the upside here, because of capitalism, is unlimited. Regular folks like me can hit it big. All a matter of what you want out of life. Rick I, San Diego. Bill, there are no orangutans native to Zambia. Chances are one of those devilish baboons threw the fruit at you. You know, Rick, you're probably right. I was too busy ducking to check the primate's passport where there was a big monkey that was throwing fruit at me. Hey. Tom Boone, Houston, Texas. Bill, you may have miscalculated author Colson Whitehead's motive in misstating your slavery analysis. He, like many others, despises you and is willing to say anything to make you look bad. I wonder if you're going to feel like all the money was worth all the hate you have to deal with. Interesting question, Tom, and I've thought about it. But it is worth it because we are influencing tens of millions of folks all over the world. And we have raised tens of millions of dollars to help people in need, especially children and severely wounded vets. The hate factor toward me is substantial. But if you want to accomplish anything significant in this life, there will be pain. And a quick happy 80th anniversary to the Teasleys in Louisiana. 75 years for the Wards in Arkansas. 70 years for the Thompsons in San Antonio. 67 years for the Rooneys in Montana. Also Lydia Westover, 107 in Washington State. Jack Chase, 102 in Largo, Florida. Way to go, guys. And finally tonight, the factor tip of the day. As you may know, I was in France recently, Normandy. And there's no question there's a backlash against Muslims in that country. Now, a number of French towns are banning Muslim women from swimming in so-called burkinis, where the ladies cover up while going into the sea or pool. The French prime minister says burkinis are, quote, part of the enslavement of women, unquote. Now, I think this is dumb. If women want to wear cover-ups while swimming, so what? And if the cover-up is mandated by their religion, they should have the absolute right to do that. Burkinis hurt no one. Let's not get crazy about terrorism. Leave innocent people alone, France. This is dumb. Factor tip today. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Factor Fox News website, different from BillO'Reilly.com. Please spout off about the Factor anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at Foxnews.com, O'Reilly at Foxnews.com. Name and town if you wish to opine. Word of the day, do not be obstreperous. Wow, that's sent by Greg Grayson in Daytona Beach. Do not be obstreperous when writing to the Factor. Again, thanks for watching us tonight. I am Bill O'Reilly. Please remember that the spin stops here, because we are definitely looking out for you.